These are the words of the current chairman of the Federal Communications Commission, and I'll put his letter back to me in the record. So if the current chairman and the makeup of this commission doesn't believe in the Fairness Doctrine, why are we worried? Because the next administration will appoint new commissioners to the Federal Communications Commission. And that next administration could appoint commissioners who could write a rule to restore this government censorship into their rules. Now you say, but you've said, Congressman Walden, that this is chilling, and the courts have said this chills free speech. Yes, but they've never overturned it. And if it were put in rule, it would have a gagging effect on talk radio and talk television, including religious broadcasters, by the way, immediately, I believe. And so while it might take years to work its way through the court system, it was chilling effect on free speech in America, a guarantee of the First Amendment of our Constitution. That effect would be immediate and devastating. And so here on my left, well, here's Rush Limbaugh, and Al Franken, and Hannity and Colmes, duct tape over their mouth. That was a nice little photo edit, Photoshop thing we did, but the point is clear. Restoration of this government regulation would silence them, but it's more than just them. It's here starting on the far right over here, Lars Larson. It's on KXL in Portland, has a national talk show as well. Garth and Rosemary Harrington out of KCMX in Medford, Oregon, or Bill Meyer out of KMED. Local, in my district, talk show hosts. In my state, and national talk show hosts. People that we listen to. Don't always agree with. You can always turn the dial and find a different topic on a different station. People we listen to. Threat's real. So what are we doing about this threat? Well, Congressman Mike Pence, my colleague and former TV journalist from Indiana, and I have co-sponsored H.R. 2905. That's the Broadcaster Freedom Act. And the Broadcaster Freedom Act, we tried to get hearings on, and the new majority doesn't want to give us a hearing on the bill, at least they haven't. It just says it takes an act of Congress, FCC, to restore the Fairness Doctrine. You can't just go do it on your own. You can't be 5 commissioners down the street who want to put the Fairness Doctrine back in rule and silence talk radio. No, you can't do it that way. In fact, we're not going to let you. Let's have the people's elected representatives be the ones to make that decision. Doesn't sound so bad. It's a rule that's repealed today. It's not on the books. This commission says they have no interest in putting it in. Our opponents of this effort even say, well, what are you worried about? My question is, if there's nothing to worry about, what are you worried about bringing this up for a vote? We ought to do it. Can't do it. So the only alternative left to my colleague Mike Pence and I, both Republicans, but this doesn't have to be a partisan issue at all, because I think all of us in this chamber are for free speech and public debate. Our only alternative left is something arcane known as a discharge petition. You all know that. My colleagues know what a discharge petition is. But for those who may be new here and don't know, it's simply a petition you sign right over here at the front desk. And if a majority of the House, 218 members, sign that petition, we'll get an open rule on the floor. We'll debate this issue in full and open and public display of our colleagues and the citizens of this great country about freedom of speech. And I predict we'd pass H.R. 2905 in a landslide. Because the last time we voted on this issue was to deny funding to the Commission to reinstitute the fairness regulation, the censorship regulation, and more than 300 of the 435 members of this great House voted with us, my colleague Mike Pence, and with me, to prevent any funding being spent by the FCC. So we know from that vote there are more than 300 of you here in the House who would support what we believe in, that you too support free speech over America's airwaves, that you support it. So it's simple. We just need 218 of 435 to sign the discharge petition. Just sign the petition. If you're for free speech over the public's airwaves, sign the petition. If you're for gagging people on the left, the right, the middle, religious broadcasters, then don't sign the petition. If you're for free speech, you sign the petition. Now, I want to share with you some correspondence I've gotten back since we started down this path. And the station vice president, general manager of the CBS affiliate in Portland, Oregon, KINK and KLTH, wrote back to me, said, "Greetings from Portland. Thank you for your efforts in opposing the reintroduction of the Fairness Doctrine. I appreciate getting copied on your inquiry to the FCC chairman regarding his views. The Fairness Doctrine is a classic example of an initiative that yields the opposite effect to its intended objective. A less regulated forum for thoughts and ideas remains the best guardian for the well-being of our democracy. With warm regards, Stan Mack, VPGM, KINK, KLTH. A less regulated forum for thoughts and ideas remains the best guardian for the well-being of our democracy." Some other emails that we've gotten. "Thank you for fighting to rid the USA of the Fairness Doctrine, which to me is nothing less than an attack on our freedom of speech. This insidious attack must be stopped. Please keep fighting. Don't let up until it's forever gone. Thank you, Mr. Graham Salisbury of Portland, Oregon." "Dear Congressman Walden, I was heartened to learn of your effort to force a vote on the BFA, possibly spurred by the current Limbaugh smear, because I find the Fairness Doctrine to be truly frightening." Mr. Dylan Greenhoe of Portland. Mr. Robert Berry of Grants Pass, Oregon writes, "I've just received your email newsletter and would like to tell you that you have my full backing on H.R. 2905. I must share your frustration that certain members of Congress would be blatantly blind to the fact that the grassroots American public was able to see through the faulty Senate-proposed immigration bill, primarily due to the freedom of talk radio. If it had not been for American talk radio, most of us would not have had the slightest idea what was really in this legislation. We must do everything in our power to see that the Fairness Doctrine is never brought back to American radio airwaves. Please keep me posted on this very important bill." Mr. Robert Berry, Grants Pass, Oregon. Sign the petition. Colleagues, sign the petition. Bring H.R. 2905 to the floor and keep America's airwaves open to debate on the right, the left, the religious center. Can you imagine if you're a religious broadcaster and the regulators down the street put this gag back in place and you're preaching a Christian message, let's say? Do you have to bring on an atheist then to preach the opposite? Is that kind of fairness some regulator sitting here in Washington might demand in order for your station to get relicensed? I don't know. Clearly, though, in this day and this litigious society that we're living in, there are plenty of organized and certainly well-funded organizations out there who would love to silence their critics on either side. On either side. See, this isn't about whether you're a Republican or a Democrat. This isn't about whether you're liberal in your viewpoints or conservative in your viewpoints. This cuts to the very foundation of free speech, which obviously underlies our entire country and our foundation for democracy, because without free speech, you do not have an informed democracy, and without that, we don't have much of anything. We don't have much of anything. So, when you look at these issues, according to the FCC itself, the coverage of this old Fairness Doctrine was you had to have these issues covered, controversial issues covered, to be fair. And according to the FCC itself, this meant that each time a broadcaster presented an arguably controversial issue of public importance, it ran the risk of a complaint being filed, potentially resulting in litigation and penalties. I want you, my colleagues, to tell me in today's environment how you would define arguably controversial issue of public importance. Is there anything that we debate here somebody might not say is arguably controversial?